Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson as Ella and I arrived at the grand venue. A historic estate sprawled out in front of us, its garden lit by strings of soft lights that were already beginning to glow in the early evening. I adjusted my tie, feeling the heat in my collar, and glanced over at Ella, who seemed far more at ease. She smoothed the hem of her burgundy dress and caught my eye with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Relax, Max," she said, squeezing my hand. "We're here to have a good time. Try to enjoy yourself for once." I tried to smile back, but something in her tone didn't sit right with me. "Yeah, I'll try," I muttered, but even I didn't believe it. As we stepped into the hall, I could already feel eyes turning toward us, toward Ella, more specifically. She was stunning, and I knew it. There was an effortless grace in the way she moved, the way she lit up a room. It was one of the things that had drawn me to her, but tonight, it felt different, as though she was shining for someone else. We took our seats, and the ceremony began. It was beautiful, the vows heartfelt, the bride and groom beaming with joy. But even as I watched them exchange rings, I could see Ella out of the corner of my eye, her gaze drifting toward Jake. He was standing at the front, tall and confident, delivering his speech as the best man with ease. And every time he caught Ella's eye, I felt a knot tighten in my chest. After the ceremony, the reception began in full swing. Ella and I mingled, chatting with guests and indulging in glasses of champagne. At one point, I turned my head to introduce her to an old friend, but she was gone. I scanned the room, spotting her by the bar with Jake. They were laughing, heads leaned close together, and I watched as he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I took a deep breath, pushing down the anger that threatened to bubble up. "Max, you're just seeing things," I told myself. But then, as if to mock me, Jake's hand lingered on her arm, and she didn't pull away. I couldn't let it go. I approached them, forcing a smile. "Ella, everything all right?" She jumped a little, clearly not expecting me. "Oh. Max, I was just catching up with Jake. You remember him, right?" Jake offered me a wide grin. "Max. Good to see you, man. Great night, huh?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, fantastic. But I couldn't resist. You two seem to have a lot to catch up on." There was a moment of awkward silence before Ella broke it with a strained laugh. "You're imagining things. We were just talking about old times, that's all." "Right," I said, letting the word hang in the air. "Old times." Jake cleared his throat, sensing the tension. "Well, I should get back to the groom, make sure everything's running smoothly. You two enjoy the night." He gave Ella one last lingering look before walking away, leaving the scent of his cologne behind. "Max, don't do this," Ella whispered, annoyance creeping into her voice. "Don't do what?" I shot back, my patience slipping. "You've been glued to him all night." She rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting. He's just a friend. Can't I talk to my friends without you getting jealous?" I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the unease. "Just, don't disappear, okay?" She sighed, exasperated. "Fine, whatever you want." And with that, she walked off, disappearing into the crowd once more. I lingered at the edge of the dance floor, lost in thought, when a voice interrupted me. "Women, huh?" A groomsman, half drunk, slouched against the wall beside me. "They've all got their secrets." He took a swig from his beer, eyeing the crowd with a lazy grin. "You know your wife's been hanging out with Jake all day, right? She sure seems to like him." I felt my heart skip a beat. "What do you mean by that?" He chuckled, oblivious to the tension rising in my voice. "Just saying, man. People talk. Jake's got a reputation, you know. And your wife, well, she's been awfully friendly." "What are you saying?" I demanded, stepping closer. The groomsman blinked at me, his smile fading. "Whoa, calm down, man. I'm just making an observation. Forget I said anything, but I couldn't forget. His words echoed in my mind, confirming every fear I had tried to bury. I turned away, my pulse pounding in my ears, and began searching for Ella. If there was any truth to what he'd said, I had to know. I had to see it with my own eyes. And so, I found myself wandering through the venue, my heart pounding with every step, the laughter and music growing fainter as I ventured deeper into the estate's sprawling gardens. It wasn't long before I spotted her silhouette, standing under a canopy of twinkling lights with Jake beside her. They were alone. Ella's hand rested on Jake's chest, her fingers tracing circles on the fabric of his shirt. She laughed softly, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months, and my stomach twisted. Jake leaned in, whispering something into her ear, and she nodded, a secret smile playing on her lips. I couldn't stand there any longer. Ella, she spun around, her eyes wide with shock. Max, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, I shot back, struggling to keep my voice steady. What's going on? Nothing, she said quickly, too quickly. We were just talking. Jake stepped forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. Take it easy, Max. We were just. Don't, I snapped, cutting him off. Don't lie to me. Ella took a step toward me, reaching out, but I jerked away from her touch. Max, please. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I demanded. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been lying to me all night. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. And in that moment, I knew. There was no excuse, no explanation that could erase what I'd seen. I turned away, my heart aching, and left them standing there under the lights. The music thumped through the walls of the estate, but I felt like I was in a soundless void. The laughter and joy of the reception faded into a dull hum as I stumbled outside, my pulse racing and anger coursing through my veins. I paced along the path that led away from the bright lights of the party, my thoughts a chaotic whirlwind of disbelief and betrayal. I needed to clear my head, but I couldn't shake the image of Ella and Jake, her laughing, leaning into him, the way she had seemed so alive in that moment. What the hell was happening? I pulled my phone out, my fingers shaking as I considered reaching out to Clara for support. Instead, I found myself just staring at the screen, the bright light illuminating my face in the dimness of the garden. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see one of the bridesmaids, Laura, making her way toward me, a concerned look on her face. Max, are you okay? I forced a smile, though it felt brittle and hollow. Yeah, just needed some air. She tilted her head, studying me. You don't look okay. You've been quiet all night. Is it Ella? I let out a short, bitter laugh. You could say that. I think she's too busy enjoying herself to notice how I feel. Laura crossed her arms, her expression shifting to one of sympathy. She seemed a little too close to Jake, right? I thought it was just me. My stomach dropped at her words. You saw it too? The way they were together. Laura nodded slowly. I didn't want to say anything, but, yeah, it was hard to miss. I thought they were just having fun, but I didn't know you'd be so upset. Upset doesn't begin to cover it, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. I have to find her. I need to know what's going on. Just then, I noticed the door swing open, and I caught a glimpse of Ella stepping outside. She looked around, a nervous expression on her face, before her eyes landed on me. I braced myself, steeling my resolve. I couldn't let her charm me out of this one. Max, there you are, she called, rushing toward me, her heels clicking against the pavement. Ella, we need to talk, I said, cutting her off before she could wrap her arms around me. About what? She asked, feigning innocence, though I could see the nervousness lurking beneath her composed exterior. About you and Jake. I saw you with him, I pressed, my voice low but firm. What the hell were you doing? She hesitated, glancing toward the entrance as if considering her next move. Max, it's not what you think. We were just catching up, just catching up. I interrupted, my frustration bubbling over. You were practically in his lap. It didn't look like just catching up to me. Ella stepped back, her expression shifting from confusion to defensiveness. I was trying to have a good time. I didn't think you'd mind. You were busy talking to your friends, and I wasn't busy. I was trying to keep an eye on you. I shot back, my voice rising. But you made it pretty clear you didn't want me around. Max, you're overreacting, she exclaimed, throwing her hands up in frustration. Jake's just a friend. We go way back. You're being paranoid. Paranoid? I spat. It's not paranoia if I can see it with my own eyes. You don't just get cozy with a guy at a wedding while your husband is inside. I can't believe you'd accuse me of cheating, she shouted, her voice wavering, and I could see a hint of genuine hurt in her eyes. This is ridiculous, ridiculous. I echoed, the disbelief washing over me. Ella, you've been disappearing all night, and now you want to pretend nothing is going on. Do you really think I believe that? Before she could respond, I turned to leave, my heart pounding. I needed air. I needed space. I couldn't stand there any longer while she tried to convince me that everything was fine. As I walked away, I heard her voice break behind me. Max, please don't go. You're making this worse. I stopped, the desperation in her tone hitting me hard. How much worse can it get, Ella? What's happening between you and Jake? Is there something you need to tell me? Max, I swear, she began, but I cut her off again. Then prove it, I said, the words tasting bitter as they left my mouth. I can't be the only one questioning this. I need you to be honest with me. I walked further into the garden, the night air cool against my heated skin. I could hear the distant sounds of laughter and music still echoing from the reception, but it felt worlds away. The anger was a haze around me as I continued down the path, and I suddenly felt the need to confront Jake. If Ella wouldn't be honest, maybe he would be. I had to know the truth. The garden opened up to a secluded area with a trellis covered in blooming vines. As I approached, I noticed Jake leaning casually against the wall, a drink in his hand, his demeanor relaxed. Hey, Max. Enjoying the wedding? He asked, a cocky smile plastered on his face. I clenched my jaw, taking a step closer. Cut the crap, Jake. I saw you with Ella. What's going on between you two? He raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. What do you mean? We were just having some fun. She's a great girl, you know. Don't play dumb with me, I warned, my voice low and dangerous. I want you to tell me the truth. Are you seeing her behind my back? Jake laughed, but it was a hollow sound. You really think I'd mess with you like that? It's just harmless flirting, man. Ella's just a little flirty, that's all. Harmless. It sure didn't look that way to me, I shot back, the anger rising again. If you think this is just a game, you've got another thing coming. Look, man, I'm not trying to start anything, he replied, his tone shifting slightly. Ella and I have a history. It's nothing serious. Just a couple of drinks and good conversation. Good conversation. I echoed incredulously. You're going to stand there and tell me that while she's out here, acting like she's single? He shrugged, a dismissive gesture that sent a surge of rage through me. You know how weddings are. People get carried away. She didn't mean anything by it. I took a step closer, my fists clenched at my sides. You stay away from her, Jake. I'm serious. If I find out you've crossed any lines, relax, Max, he said, raising his hands defensively. I didn't mean any harm. You really need to chill out. But as I stood there, my mind racing, I realized I was anything but calm. I turned on my heel, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. I had to confront Ella again, but this time, it would be different. This time, I needed proof. I needed answers. I could hear the distant laughter echoing through the halls as I stormed back to the reception, a new determination settling over me. I would find a way to expose the truth, to gather the evidence I needed to confront both Ella and Jake. I wouldn't be a victim in this situation, I would take control. The night was far from over, and the discoveries that lay ahead would change everything. As I stepped back into the reception hall, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. The music thumped loudly, people danced, and laughter filled the air, but it all felt like a cruel mockery of my reality. Ella was still mingling with guests, and Jake was likely keeping his distance, playing the role of the charming best man, oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I needed a plan, and I needed it fast. The thought of confronting Ella again without solid proof felt futile. I needed evidence that could not be denied. I felt a slight buzz in my pocket, a message from Clara. "Clara, hey. How's it going? You at the wedding?" I quickly typed back, my fingers trembling slightly. "Me, not great. Ella's been acting strange, and I think she's hiding something. Can you come outside?" Moments later, I saw Clara slip out of the hall, her expression shifting from friendly curiosity to concern as she approached. "Max, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I sighed heavily, running a hand through my hair. "It's Ella. I think she's cheating on me with Jake." Clara's eyes widened. "Are you serious? What makes you think that?" "I saw them together. She was all over him, and a groomsman mentioned it too," I replied, my voice low, trying to contain my anger. "I need proof, Clara. Something I can show her, something I can use." "Do you have your phone on you?" she asked, her brow furrowing in thought. "Yeah, but what good is that going to do?" "Live stream it," she suggested, her eyes lighting up with a spark of inspiration. "If you catch them together, you can broadcast it. It'll hold her accountable, and if it goes viral, everyone will see." I hesitated. "That feels extreme." "Extreme times call for extreme measures," Clara said, her voice firm. "You can't just sit back and let her get away with this. You need to take control of your narrative." I considered it for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. I couldn't let this slide. I wouldn't be a victim any longer. "All right, let's do it." As we plotted, I spotted Ella through the crowd, her laughter ringing out like a siren call. I turned to Clara. "If I'm going to do this, I need you to keep an eye on Jake. I want to know where he is at all times." "Got it. I'll follow him and let you know if anything happens," she replied, determination evident in her voice. I moved to the side of the hall, pretending to engage with other guests while keeping Ella in my line of sight. The music shifted to a slower tempo, and couples began to sway gently to the melody. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm in my chest, and watched as Ella danced with some friends, her smile brightening the room. "Max. Come join us," she called out, waving me over. I feigned a smile, stepping forward, but my heart raced as I felt my resolve hardening. "I think I'll pass for now." Just then, Clara texted me. "Clara, Jake's heading outside for a smoke. I think Ella's going to follow him." My heart pounded. I had to act quickly. "Ella, I'll be right back. Just need to grab something from my car," I lied, urgency fueling my movements. I slipped outside, the cool air hitting me like a refreshing wave, and scanned the area. The soft glow of the garden lights illuminated Jake leaning against a wall, cigarette in hand. I stayed hidden, positioning my phone to record from a distance. "Is it just me, or is this wedding kind of boring?" Jake said, exhaling a cloud of smoke as Ella stepped out, her cheeks flushed and her eyes sparkling. "Totally. I feel like I haven't had enough fun," she replied, a teasing lilt in her voice. "You know, we could always make our own fun." I barely contained my rage as I listened, feeling the heat rise within me. This was it, the moment I needed. Ella stepped closer, and Jake dropped his cigarette, stepping toward her as if to close the distance. "You're right. We should definitely have a little fun." I hit record on my phone, capturing the moment as Jake leaned in, a sly grin spreading across his face. "You know, I've always had a thing for you. It's a shame you're married. Max isn't the fun type, Ella replied, her voice playful, but the underlying tension sent a shiver down my spine. He wouldn't understand. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. My heart raced, and the urge to storm in was strong, but I needed this evidence. I focused the camera tighter, my anger fueling my determination. Let's just keep it between us, all right? Jake said, reaching out to touch her arm. I wouldn't want to ruin a good thing. Ella giggled softly, leaning closer. I like secrets. I couldn't take it anymore. With a surge of adrenaline, I burst into the scene, my voice steady and icy. So, this is what you call keeping it between you? Ella jumped back, her face shifting from surprise to anger as she realized I had been recording. Max, what the hell? You were spying on me. You think I wouldn't find out? I shot back, holding my phone up for them to see. I have it all right here. Jake's expression faltered, but he quickly regained his composure, a smirk creeping back onto his face. Come on, man. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious, Jake. You think you can just play games with my wife and walk away unscathed? I stepped closer, my heart pounding. Ella crossed her arms, trying to regain control of the situation. This is ridiculous, Max. You're blowing everything out of proportion. I turned the camera toward her. Blowing things out of proportion? You're the one flirting with my best man. Stop recording, she yelled, but I could see the panic in her eyes. I'm not going to stop until everyone knows the truth, I replied, pressing the live stream button. Everyone's going to see what you really are. I could hear the gasps from the small crowd that had begun to gather, curious about the commotion. I felt exhilarated and terrified all at once. The shame and embarrassment I thought I'd feel quickly transformed into a sense of empowerment. Max, don't do this. Ella cried, her voice rising with desperation. You're making a huge mistake. No, Ella, you made this mistake, I said, my voice steady. And now it's time for you to face the consequences. The comments started rolling in on my live stream, a flurry of reactions from friends, family, and even people I didn't know. I read through the stream, seeing shock, disbelief, and support, fueling my resolve. I wouldn't back down. Max, this is just a misunderstanding, Ella pleaded, her bravado fading as her voice broke. Please, just put the phone down. Misunderstanding? I echoed, my voice steady. You're right, it's a misunderstanding, because I thought I could trust you. As I continued streaming, I could see Jake shifting uncomfortably, the smirk wiped off his face. Dude, this isn't cool, he said, looking to Ella for support. But Ella stood there, her facade crumbling as the reality of her actions set in. Max, I cut her off. Don't bother. Everyone's watching now. With that, I let the camera roll, capturing the moment in all its raw intensity. I could feel the weight of their stares, the world watching as I exposed the truth I'd been denied for too long. This wasn't just about Ella and Jake anymore, this was about reclaiming my life, my narrative. And as the views climbed and the comments poured in, I felt a new sense of purpose rising within me. I was taking control. The fallout from this night would be more than just a moment, it would be a turning point. The reception hall was a cacophony of gasps and whispers as the live stream played on, showing Ella and Jake standing frozen in shock. My heart pounded in my chest as I continued to record, capturing the moment when their facade crumbled under the weight of their betrayal. The room had turned into a theater of my personal tragedy, and I was determined to make sure everyone bore witness. Max, you have to stop this. Ella pleaded, her voice trembling. The bravado she had shown earlier was gone, replaced by genuine fear. Why? I replied, my tone icy. You wanted fun, right? Let's let everyone in on the game you've been playing. The crowd had grown, a mix of wedding guests and curious onlookers. I could see familiar faces among them, friends, acquaintances, even some distant relatives, eyes wide in disbelief. Clara stood at the edge of the crowd, her expression a mix of shock and support, her phone raised to capture the unfolding drama. "Max, this is so unfair," Jake exclaimed, his voice rising in panic. "You're ruining everything. You don't know what you're doing." "Don't tell me what I don't know," I shot back, feeling the anger bubbling up again. "I know exactly what's happening here. I know who you really are. Both of you." Ella stepped forward, desperation etched across her face. "You're making a mistake, Max." "I made a mistake, but this isn't how you handle it." "Then how should I handle it, Ella?" I asked, keeping the camera steady. "Pretend everything's fine while you flirt with my best friend? Do you think I'm just going to forget what I saw?" She hesitated, the weight of my words crashing down around us. "It wasn't just flirting. I was confused. I didn't mean for it to go that far." "Confused? You've been confused for months, haven't you?" I pressed, my voice rising. "How many times did you go out without telling me? How many late nights did you spend with him while I sat at home waiting for you?" "Max, please," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could figure things out without making a scene." "It's a little late for that now, don't you think?" I glanced at the camera, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. "This is the scene, Ella. You made it, and now everyone gets to see it play out." The crowd was murmuring, some shaking their heads in disbelief. I could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on us. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, but I couldn't back down now. This was my moment to confront the truth. "Max, I love you," Ella suddenly blurted out, her eyes wide with desperation. "I do. But I was lost. I thought I could have both worlds. You need to understand." "Understand what?" "That you wanted to have your cake and eat it too." I shot back, incredulous. "You think I can just accept that you were running around behind my back?" "I was trying to find myself." "You've been so focused on your career that I felt abandoned," she countered, her voice rising. "You've barely paid attention to me for months." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm in the face of her accusations. "So you thought cheating was the answer? You didn't even try to talk to me about how you felt. You just jumped into bed with my best friend." "Max, it wasn't just about you. It was about me feeling invisible," she replied, tears glistening in her eyes. "I didn't know how to reach out without feeling like a burden." I shook my head, my anger softening just slightly as I looked at her. "Ella, you could have come to me. I would have listened. But you chose to betray me." Jake chimed in, trying to regain some semblance of control. "Max, this isn't fair. You're turning this into a public spectacle. Ella and I, don't you dare try to spin this on me." I roared, cutting him off. "You're the one who crossed the line. You both thought you could hide this, but now the truth is out, and it's too late for apologies." Ella's shoulders slumped, and I could see the fight drain out of her. "I never wanted it to come to this, Max. I thought we could fix it." "Fix it?" I echoed, my voice low. "You can't fix this. You broke my trust, and that's not something you can just patch up with a few kind words." The crowd around us was captivated, phones raised to capture every moment. The realization washed over me. I was no longer just confronting Ella and Jake, I was reclaiming my story, making sure that their betrayal was seen for what it was. Clara stepped closer, her voice breaking through the tension. "Max, maybe it's time to end the live stream. You've made your point. Now you need to focus on what comes next." "Not yet," I said, my resolve hardening again. "I need them to see this. I need everyone to understand what they did to me, to us." Ella took a tentative step toward me, her hands raised in a placating gesture. "Max, please, let's just talk this out. I'm willing to work on it. I don't want to lose you." "You lost me the moment you decided to betray me," I replied, feeling the weight of finality in my words. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about respect, trust, and the fact that you chose someone else over me." Jake tried to interject, stepping closer to Ella. "Come on, man. This is just a misunderstanding. We can sort this out privately. No, Jake, I said, glaring at him. You don't get to talk. You've already made your choices, and I'm done listening to your excuses. The crowd was shifting, murmurs of disbelief and sympathy echoing around us. I could see some familiar faces, friends I hadn't expected to see at a moment like this. They were watching, and I knew that this moment would define not just Ella and Jake, but me too. With a final deep breath, I turned back to Ella, my voice steady. I'm done. You can keep your apologies. I don't need them anymore. You've shown me who you are, and I refuse to let that define me. Tears streamed down her face as she realized I was serious. Max, don't say that, but I was resolute. It's too late for that, Ella. You made your choice. Now, I'm making mine. With that, I ended the live stream, the camera capturing the stunned silence that followed. I felt an overwhelming wave of clarity wash over me. I wasn't just a victim of betrayal, I was reclaiming my power. The crowd began to disperse, the murmurs of shock lingering in the air. Clara stepped beside me, her expression proud yet concerned. You did it, Max. You stood up for yourself. I nodded slowly, feeling both exhilarated and exhausted. Now I just have to figure out what comes next. As I looked back at Ella and Jake, standing together in disbelief, I knew this was only the beginning. The confrontation may have taken place, but the real battle for my heart and future had only just begun.